Welcome guys to another video. Today's video we will concentrate on the grooving. I'm gonna make a quick program and we're gonna start going. So I created a new program, we call it number 2. So stainless steel, OD 6 inches, ID 0, length let's call it 5 inches, work face 200,000, RPMs 1200. Remember, soft key, insert, OK, and continue, no, parts counter, no, tool change position, and enter. There's another unit, I'm gonna erase this, so I'm gonna press erase, highlighted the unit that I wanted to drop, OK, and we're done. Now, soft key, and we're gonna insert always inserts above was highlighted, and right now the end is highlighted. So insert, press OK. Now we have a unit. So we have a grooving, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna to make it very simple, 1-inch part, and we'll make and I'll show you like different options for different grooves. So we're gonna hit turning. We have a grooving key. I'm gonna press it. Automatically the unit turns into grooving. Now it's gonna ask you part. So for the part you have options: out, in, face, and back. So let's go with out. And now we have options 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what you can do if you're not sure what you're trying to do, you can go up, and right under the percentage, the rapid and all, you see a question mark. Question mark is going to show you these options. So this is option 0. What this option 0 is telling you that the groove you're going to do, so for example, the Z value that you're gonna put in, it has to be different value. So for example, if you want this groove to be 100,000 wide, and you want the groove to the back of the groove, for example, to be at 100, then you have to do 100 plus 100 the width of the groove, and that's what you're gonna get, like width number 2. So for example, you might throw in a chamfer. The chamfer you don't calculate, you calculate the end of the taper, or if you have no taper, just imagine this is a straight line. So this is showing you the beginning of the groove on number 1, versus a 0 is going to be the end of the groove, is that you're going to put it as your starting and your final Z positions. Now option number 2 is sometimes you get a part and you only have a, let's say, chamfer on one side, or sometimes you might have it one side it's a bigger chamfer, one side is a smaller chamfer. That in those instances, what you do is you actually have to create, like you have to combine, let's say, 2 of them. You can combine number 2, okay, you specify a chamfer, for example, on this one, on this side, which is the back side, and then you combine it with number 3, and also you can call out a different chamfer radius, let's say on this side. Then you have your number 4, and number 4 is technically, sorry, this is like if you try and do, for example, you can do a cutoff and whatnot, but same thing as with like a specific corners and radiuses. Also, as over here, it's showing you if you have multiple grooves they have to be similar with a similar pitch. You can also create multiple grooving in just one unit, and we're gonna get to it right now. So I'm gonna shut off the question mark. Okay, and number 0 I use for cutoffs. The reason is there's no rougher finish. It's only one. So you can use it for cutoff, or you can use it, for example, if you have a 100,000 wide groove and you have a 100,000 wide insert, then technically it's just gonna do one pass and you're done. So now number, and let me bring the tab here. Number of grooves. We're creating one. The pitch of the groove. We're only doing one groove, so 0 for the pitch. Width of the groove, for example, let's call it 120,000. Now it's telling you what tool you're using. Unfortunately, I don't think I have any tool in my tool library, so I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's call it 0.090 G for groover. The priority, we don't know about that. Depth of cut, so pretty much if it's gonna cut and you give it a 20,000, it's gonna 20, 20, 20, 20. It's gonna kind of pack it. So 20,000. Surface speed, let's call it 200. And feed rate, it depends on the groove, but anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 feed rate is pretty common. And then M8, and then we have a starting point X. So let's call it our part is 1 inch. So we're gonna go 1 inch. Starting point Z. If let's say for example, if our end of the groove is gonna be at 200,000, we're gonna go 200,000. Final point X. Well, now that depends if you're cutting off a part. If it's a small part, what I usually do, I'll cut it to 125,000. We're talking about, let me show you, for example, part of this size, 1 inch, 3/4, nothing really too heavy. So what I do is I go to I cut it down to 125,000. Then once it's done, you just go and you grab the part in your hand and usually pops off. If it's a ring, and for example, if it's a ring that's 2 inches in outside diameter, it's got a 1 inch hole, then what I do is I'll cut it. It has to cut a little bit under actually 1 inch, because what it does is when your tool is cutting, and for example, this is your groove, okay, it's gonna push this material like this. So that means you have to actually cut down, and sometimes it can be 30, 40,000, actually under before it's gonna, before the ring's gonna actually fall off. So if you have a 1 inch hole, I would go to 990, okay? So even 10,000 lower, or 995. To be safe, and then you just tap it with a hammer. It's gonna fall off. It's gonna leave this very thin ring. So this is how I cut off the parts. Unless something is very, very big, then I go about it a little bit differently, but for safety reasons, I'm not gonna talk about that here. And then final point Z. So your final points have to match, okay? Because your starting point Z on top and starting and finishing point Z, it has to go low. If your value is going to be 200 here, but your value is going to be 100 here, the tool is going to go from 200 and backward, going back to the 0 position, and it's going to pull a taper. So technically, if you're thinking about it, if you're using a groover, you're going to break the tool. So we go in on the same line from up to the bottom, straight line, starting point X and Z, 1 inch, 200. Our final point Z is going to be the same. Like I said, unless you're doing a taper, it's a different story. And you can also use this kind of similar to a turning, because you can do a taper. I wouldn't do it technically, maybe unless it's a small one with option 0, but you do have an angle, and the machine will call under an angle. It will calculate the angle for you as well. So groove number 0, that's going to be for cutoff, and like you said, this is only a finish. It doesn't rough it for you. So whatever's going to cut is whatever that tool's going to give you, it will give you. This is what you're going to get. Tool number 0, pattern number 0 is for cutoff. Not only, but usually. Now, When it comes to tool number, when it comes to the pattern number 1, you also have a chamfer options on both sides and such. So I'm gonna go press 1. Same thing as like tool number 1, number of grooves 1, width is gonna be 120,000. Let's just say we leave everything the same. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the program, toolpath, part. I'm gonna scale change, 0.5, for example, part. Let's make it even a little bit bigger, 0.2. Okay, so this is our groove. So if we run it, finish depth of cut, 0. So we have an alarm, 2 and 1, finish depth. Let me see. Oh, I think I know what's going on because it's actually pitch 0. Let me see. Pattern 1 cut, pitch is 0. Width of the groove is gonna be okay. So what happened was because I changed the pattern and now we have a finish. So actually it will not allow me because now I have a finish or rougher. So see like what do you call it? So let me see if I'll add finish to it, because usually on number 1 it will populate rougher and finish instead of just finish. But I'm gonna put 3000 as a finish, and everything else we're gonna keep the same. And then we have a finish on X. So let's call it 1000. Let me see if I'll get an alarm as well. So we have the part, stays the same. Now, okay, now this is, so now that went. So technically you have to add a finish to it. But in good faith, it's, what do you call it? So as you see over here, now we have this, and let's make this actually wider. Just for the fact is that it's gonna be easier to show. So that 120, it looks pretty narrow. Let's make it a 300. Toolpath, part. Okay, now we have a little bit bigger groove, and it's gonna be easier to see. Okay, so right now this is what we have. Now, for example, you want to have some chamfers on both sides, right? So we go to edit. First thing you see, starting corner on the calculator and over here in the calculator. If we want the corner only as a chamfer, we're just gonna put in the value, enter. It's gonna show us a corner of 30,000. I'm gonna go to the program, toolpath, and now I'm just gonna add part. And now you see it throw in a chamfer for us. Okay. If you're not sure because this is still an old drawing, it just overlaid the new one. All you have to do is go to shape erase. Okay. 0.2. You put part in, and now as you see, this is what our new shape is. Well, what if you want just the radius over here, right? We go to the program edit. We press here again, but now we're gonna highlight a corner radius because that's what we want. We're gonna use the same value, but now it's gonna say R30. Okay, so program, toolpath, we're gonna overlay. Now you see it beautifully rounded up. So we do shape erase, and we're gonna hit the part, and now we have a new shape. So this is what we wanted. You can do the same thing with the corner or radiuses over here on the bottom. This is a starting, and the insides are ending. So you go to program edit, and it says final corner. This is gonna be this one. And right here it's gonna say final corner, and also our on the keypad is gonna say. Same thing is, let's go even 80,000. We're gonna highlight the radius, and the highlight you can do before you put in the number or after, it doesn't matter. Only applies it once you press the enter. Okay, so we have in final corner 80,000. Okay, soft key, program, toolpath. I'm gonna hit the part, and now we have a radius. So I'm gonna do shape erase. I'm gonna hit a part again, and now it's not overlaying, it's showing exactly the part. Let me see if I can run it, and it's showing you exactly how it's gonna run. So this is if your corners or radiuses are uniform. If you only have that corner radius on one side, then we're gonna change the pattern. So if your corner is gonna be on your right side, you pick 2. If your corner is gonna be on your left side, for example, then we're gonna pick 3, right? So we got a number 3. Same thing, like all the values are gonna stay the same. Let's actually make this radius also 80,000 because it's gonna be more visible. And all the values are the same, so starting corners and final corner or radiuses in this situation. Let's go back here, back, toolpath, and I'm gonna do a part. And see, so what happened now, it shifted because technically, as we showed before, it's like 0 calculates this one, pattern number 1 calculates the back side. So just you can go to that question mark and pay attention to which one calculates. And I'll take a picture of it, then I'll try to put it into the video that I'm gonna make. But I'm gonna do shape erase, part, and as we saw on that little help page, it gave us nice, beautiful radiuses on the left side and nothing. So one more thing that we talked about is, let's say, what if you want to have a multiple part? So let's say you have a shaft, and then you have multiple grooves like this, for example. So it's asking you how many grooves you have, and like I said, they have to be equally spaced between each other, and they have to be exactly the same. So let's call it we have 10 grooves. I'm gonna have to change one thing. I'm gonna have to, let me see, groove out. Length, let's make it 20 inches. Okay, so pattern 1. Okay, so regular grooving, 10 grooves. They're gonna be 200,000 apart. Width of the groove is gonna be, let's say, they're 100,000 wide, 3,000 on the finish. This is our grooving tool. Okay, radiuses, let's throw 20,000. Final starting point X, let's call it 1 inch. Starting point Z. So let's start the first groove 300,000 from the 0. 1 inch, so let's call it 100,000. So let's say we're gonna go to 900. Final point Z, we have to match this one, so 300. And then your final radius, if it's 200,000 wide, then you want this to be fully, so I messed up, radius, and you want this to have like a nice radius all the way through, then it has to be what do you call it, half of the width, which is 200. That's half of the width is going to be 100, and then it's going to create another 100 on the other side. That will give you a full radius. Okay, so let's go to the program, toolpath. Now we're going to do a part. Let's do scale change. One part. So here are our grooves. Now that groove looked a little shitty. The radiuses, as you see over here, this is one thing I don't like about some of it. When you do like a very, very big radius, where you have a nice full radius and then you have a large radiuses on top, it does this, I don't know why, it's like it just looks strange. What I usually do, I take a grooving tool, I turn it into a general turning tool, I will do as a regular cut, and then I'll shift and repeat. But this shouldn't be the case. So pattern 1, 10 grooves, 200 pitch. Okay, the problem is because my groove is 100 instead of 200 program. So I was trying to cram the radiuses. Okay, 0.1, that's gonna make it big. So now they're overlapping, so we have to space them a little bit more. 0.300. Okay, let's go scale change to 0.200 part. Okay, so now we're looking a little bit better. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so you have a radius here and you have a radius here. So corner, let's make this a little bit bigger and make it a radius and then 1 inch final point. So this is where I kind of messed up. So we have 200 wide. It should be 200 lower diameter, so 100,000 per side. And now we should get a nice and rounded radius. So like all these little details, you have to be very specific about it, and that's why the tracing is so good, or a toolpath, because it's gonna show you if you make a mistake somewhere. It's gonna look good. And I don't know if it's gonna. Okay, so my because that I don't have a tool, it's alarming. But technically, 1 inch. Technically, it will go. It will keep shifting. It will knock all of them out. And for this type of thing, you need a rougher and finish. But like I said, since I've created it pattern 0, and pattern 0 only finishes versus, and I'll show you. Let's say turning T groove outside, pattern 1, number of grooves, call it 10. Pitch 300, white 200, finish 3000, grooving and whatnot. And as you see, when I did a pattern 1, now we do have a rougher, we do have a finish. So rougher and finish, it will pretty much just kind of describe things. And what's cool about this one, you have a standard, bidirectional, and unidirectional. Standard, you cut it just like a regular groove. Bidirectional, it cuts the groove like a regular OD turning tool, cuts into the material, comes out, versus unidirectional, cuts in, moves, cuts in, comes back, cuts in, and moves. So it's actually much faster. You need a very rigid tool so you don't actually break it. We're gonna go with standard, 20,000, 320 surface speed, made a mistake, feed rate 3000, M8 for coolant, 420, 03, M8, and once you hit the enter, now it populates a line, and this is where you put your shape. So over here it's all your feeds and your speeds and tools and kind of options that you need from Mazatrol, versus all your lines are pretty much the shape of what you're trying to cut. So technically, and I think, I covered the groove pretty much like the basics, and like I said, and obviously I made a mistake here, turning, and obviously yeah, same thing works for groove in, same thing is gonna work for your face or your for back turn. And like I said, the cool thing about won't allow me to do convert OD grooving from ID grooving. It does actually kind of make sense, because for safety reason, in case if you pick the OD turn and it will be trying to get into your ID grooving, then you just go through the material like it's nobody's business. T groove inside, same thing is like all the options, but I just noticed you don't have the other options. Let me see. Okay, so you don't have the option that 4 or 5 that we had on the other one. but 0, 1, 2, and 3 we do have, and I will investigate on those last two options because I'm actually curious what they do. All right, guys, thank you for joining me for another video. I do apologize if I was rumbling. Trying to be as specific as I can. I don't really prepare for these videos. I just kind of do them as I go, or if I have a little bit of time, and I already have a couple that I have to unload. So see you next time.